hear you're getting in some trouble there. In your 36 years, Fred, of operating Ice King, how many times have you had or been audited by the FDA?
So the FDA came into our facility for the first time in 36 years this past October. And, it was quite an eye opening. It was no notice. And she came in and she said, I'm here from the FDA. I'm here to inspect your facilities. And we're going to start. And she gave me a laundry list of paperwork that she was looking for. And I looked at her. I said, well, it's a pleasure to meet you. Hopefully you'll enjoy your experience here. And I gave her I went to my shelf and I got the last 3 years of the IPIA PIQCS binder out. And I put the three binders out in front of her. I said, you could sit here. Can I offer you a cup of coffee and let me know if you have any questions? I walked away. I was gone for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I went back in and checked on her. She said, no, we're all good. I just need some more time. I left again. I came back in and she said, okay, can we tour your facility? So I took her out to the facility. It was the first time she said she's been in a few ice plants before. Took her about 35, 40 minutes walking around the facility with her. Came back in the office and she said, okay, I don't have any findings. Thank you very much. Your paperwork was all in order and we'll be back. But you're good for now. And there's nothing we have for you now. I appreciate your time. I asked her why she came, what sparked it. Was it a new investigation that was going to be periodic, a new inspection periodic? And she said that she doesn't know why she's here. She just goes to where she's told to go, and she doesn't know if it was just
Wow.
routine, annual. And I said to her, I said, I was really surprised. It's the first time I've seen you in the 35 years that I'm here. And she said, no, it's the first time we're out. And yet, from what I'm told, we'll be out more often. And she couldn't give me a schedule, a routine. Is it annual, biannual, every 5 years? She said, your state should be in here pretty regularly, your state monitoring health, and they come in once every 5 years,
Okay.
unannounced, uninspected, and then the county comes in and the local comes in, but all unannounced, all uninspected, all infrequent, but they're becoming more frequent, and you never know. And having that PICS binder always up to date, and in the end, it's become quite a peace of mind for if not for anything else. It's kind of standard operating procedure. Somebody knocks on the door, bring them in, give them the binder, and call me.
Yeah. You said you gave coffee. Was it a high dose of caffeine coffee to get? Yeah.
Well, after the fact, I was thinking, wow, should we put some sedatives in that? I'm glad I didn't know.
We bring up a question about, as soon as we come on here, your phone starts ringing. We know that the feds listen to us. So I'm wondering if they're already like, hey, pipe it down, big guy, So what were you going to say, Jeff?
Well, I was going to say, I've seen that PICS manual, and that has got to be some riveting reading. After that, you could have, probably
the
done
great
just
part
about.
is, the IPIA is going in, and we're hopefully pretty soon rolling out a digital version of it. We'll all be on a tablet, and we're really excited about that because it should really simplify things, clean things up. And I would have loved to have said, here's a tablet, flip through all the pages, have fun.
Right.
But hopefully soon we'll be rolling that out. We're demoing it now, and then the next, hopefully, calendar year it'll be out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard some really good things about what's coming down the pike for that. So I think it'd be great. I have something I want to bring up, but I want Jeff, and maybe I can remember it, but I'm getting older. But introduce our guest.
So if you don't recognize him, he was our guest on episode 26. This is Fred Lomangino from the Ice King in New Jersey. Fred was the former chairman of the IPIA when we interviewed him before.
Maybe that's why he got nailed on the FDA.
Now he's still serving on the board as the past chairman. And so, it's good to see you after a few months, Fred. And maybe you lost a few hairs, maybe not too bad. Not as bad as our presidents after they served their term, right? They seem to age so much, but
except for Trump, they showed side by sides, and somehow he looks like he's getting younger.
He's younger.
I don't know what he's doing. So,
today our nugget is about this unexpected visit from the FDA. Fred shared that story with me, and I really thought that a lot of ice companies out there would find it to be important, interesting, valuable to know that that could happen. So I guess the thing that surprised me the most was that the visit was totally unannounced. And apparently there are some government organizations that do that, and that's kind of normal if you're in food production. Is that right?
Well, usually in New Jersey, no matter who the inspector is, whether it be state, county, local, or now the FDA, let's put the FDA on us, they're usually always unannounced. And not only health inspections, if a safety inspector is coming in or the DOT, usually inspections are not announced. They just knock on your door. And, thank God for the IPIA. And I'm not tooting the IPIA's horn, but in the absence of that, we've been doing that a long time. But in the absence of that, when those inspectors knock on the door, I would have no knowledge as to what they were looking for. So originally ice was not a food. IPI slogan used to be the forgotten food, and that'll tail into your next segment of where you're going with it, because it from a regulatory standpoint, from a consumption standpoint, it was the forgotten food, and people are now starting to remember it.
Yep.
It's starting to draw some attention to regulators' eyes. And in the absence of that binder, and the nice part about them coming in and looking at that binder, to me, for the first time, it showed me that it had everything that these regulating bodies are looking for. It was clean enough and comprehensive enough where they just said, "Thank you very much. You're all set. I'll see you later."
Yeah, that as a consumer, I found that fantastic. As somebody who goes and buys ice or food or whatever, I would love to know that a government agency could walk into that restaurant, that store, that production facility unannounced, and they have a plan, and that plan was totally satisfactory to them, and that they toured the facility, and that it's not like she was saying, well, on page 27 you said you did this, this, and this, and I don't see that. Sounds like there was nothing to complain about. So I think that's fantastic.
That was the caffeine speaking. So yeah,
And at the end of the day, she didn't say, "Well, you're missing this," or "Where's that?" Yeah, yeah.
right.
That was even more. Yeah, she took her time. She went through that book and said, "Thank you very much."
Yeah.
Um,
So I want to toot my own horn that I remembered what I was going to say before we did the introduction of you, Fred. So which was thicker? Was it the PICS manual, or or I guess you said that there was some documentation that she had, or you said you had two thick stacks. So was the PICS I guess material thicker, or which what?
yeah, she
I guess she brought
totally.
something in for you, correct?
Yeah, well, she was ahead of me. She was on her tablet.
Hey,
Oh,
there you go. All right.
She
Well,
was on
good.
her tablet, but we had our past 3 years books on the
Ah,
table
okay.
for her to look through. But she had her tablet and very little on her notebook. But I'm sure her tablet was full because she was flipping through her tablet and then looking in our binder to see if she could find that information where whatever program she was looking through, what was, and much like the NSF inspections, they come, they know what they're looking for, they look for it in the book, and then as long as you had it, she was, flipping through with her finger, thumbing through to the next segment in her tablet.
so as far as that, you never did get like a checklist or anything like that from her
I got
going
a
over?
report afterwards,
Oh, okay.
like the
Okay.
NSF gives us, where it has a checklist of 50 or 100 different things on it. It says no findings at the bottom. That was
Great.
it. At the bottom, when all was said and done, it was just incompliant and no findings.
Did she make any remarks about as she was leaving about, sometimes people, they give you a little bit of insight of say, man, this is one of the cleanest facilities. I'm not saying that she was looking cleanliness of the facility, but I mean, that's a part of it, right? I mean, but sometimes people can give you little breadcrumbs to say, we've done a pretty good job here compared to other industries or anything. Did she drop any of those hints at all?
Well, what she said to me on the way out the door was she thanked me for being so cooperative. She said,
Uh-huh.
a lot of people see me knocking on the door, and a lot of people think I'm the IRS, and they're closing everything up and they're locking everything up. And she said,
Start the fire.
I've been turned away from facilities, and those people that turn me away are really sorry after the fact that they turned me
I
away.
bet.
When I come
Yeah.
back the next time, I'm not in a good mood. So she
Yeah.
thanked me for being cooperative. She thanked us for being prepared, and yeah, like I said, when you say no findings, there's really that speaks such volumes.
Mhm.
When the
Yeah,
auditor
I mean, that's what you're looking for, right?
no findings, and her compliment on the way out the door was, "Thank you for allowing me access to your building and to your records, and I appreciate you being so cooperative."
Yeah, I want to ask you: are there any misconceptions that say the general public may have about packaged ice or the FDA oversight? What do you think?
Well, when I run into people and I'm an ice geek, you start talking about sanitation with ice and everything. I think when I run into the general public, none of them are aware. It's just always assumed that somebody is overlooking the safetiness, the food prep, the cleanliness, and that it's certified and inspected in some way, shape, or form. They just assume that it is a food, it is the forgotten food, and until you bring awareness to them, they have no idea that it's just could come from anywhere and
Yep.
not affected in any way, shape, or form. It's just a given in everybody's mind that they're consuming something safe because they are consuming it, they are purchasing it, and they just assume that it's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you start to tell them stories about how it's not, and they're like, "Really? I think I'm not going to use ice anymore." Or,
I
"Really?"
was literally telling Jeff before the podcast that there was an event. My daughter just got married this past Friday, and the groom's father went and got some ice, and unbeknownst to me, I mean, clearly I think I'm the aficionado of ice around the area, but no one asked me about this. They just went out haphazardly buying ice, and I saw him pulling some bags off of his truck, and I was pretty far away, and I just kind of hollered out to Chris and said, "Hey, does that have an IPIA logo on it?" And he's like, "Yeah, it has a logo." I was like, "No, not the main logo, like the a little logo." And he looked around, and his eyes are going bad like mine. He's like, "Yeah, it looks like that." So, and there is a logo. I was like, "Okay, we're good, we're good." So a little bit later, we ended up having a conversation. I said, "This is the reason I asked." It's like,
This is what Ethan's talking about during the
I
wedding. How
yeah,
about that? I
that's
mean,
right. Well, I mean, it was a little weird actually during the ceremony that I was doing this, but uh,
just gave his daughter away.
that's
Now
right.
he's teaching someone about
That's
ice.
right. I sit down. It was like a TED talk. So yeah, we were going through it. So we just end up having the conversation. We've rehashed this many a times on this podcast about those vending machines, or if you just see a general bag that just says ice on it, be cautious. Be very cautious of that. I mean, you probably should be cautious of your own ice at your own house because you're not cleaning that stuff either. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But you see that logo, it's good ice.
Well,
It's very stringent of what you guys require and all that. But I thought that was I guess a decent story to kind of talk about to what you're talking about right now, Fred.
so in your software engineering days, pre-ice industry, how did it open your eyes? How did you become such an ice geek and ice aware?
Yep.
Well, it shocked me. It shocked me when I realized that there wasn't things out there, and never once had it ever come across my mind that even icing down drinks, you wherever that ice or water it's setting in, most people never think about it. They open it and they go to town, and you're
Yep.
you're consuming whatever was in the rim of that soda can.
Yeah.
So it's something that people don't think about, and they're it's just a sanitary risk, right? I don't want to over hyperbolize this, but it is something
Yep.
that is a risk. But it is interesting, and I don't think there's probably anybody in the ice industry that says, "Hey, we love government oversight." But
Nope.
there's a reason for it though, right? I mean, because otherwise it would get taken advantage of, and people won't do what they say that they are doing. I mean, there's reasons our government have gotten into marketing and truth in advertising because you want to be able to know that what you're consuming, what you're buying meets certain guidelines, and
Yep.
there is a reason for it.
Yeah. I think as we close, Fred, I just want to ask, what advice would you give to other ice companies out there that haven't had the visit, but they could come any day? What would you
So
tell them?
to other IPIA members, my advice to them would be make sure they're always on top of their paperwork. You know, do as you say and say as you do. Make sure you're always on your paperwork. Make sure it's always up to date and your binders in order, and you'll be fine. You go to sleep with a peace of mind that no matter who knocks on your door, you'll be okay. And for those that aren't doing anything and aren't, you don't have to be a member to be a good operator. Being a member allows you to be, it's a guideline for it. It keeps you in line, and it's a great tool. It's a great tool, but you don't have to be a member to be a good operator. So if you're not a member, I strongly suggest that you pick up some type of food regulation, food code, and abide by it, and have your paperwork in order. Because if you don't, from what I understand, ignorance is no excuse. Absence of knowledge is no excuse. If you're going to be an operator, you're manufacturing a food product. It's now on the government's radar, and if you're not prepared, I feel bad for you. I just don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
The absence of having the knowledge that the IPIA imparted on me, that the PIQCS committee and being involved has put on me, and in the absence of that binder and those NSF inspections, I don't know if I'd be in business today.
All right, great. We'll put a link down in the the description area. So if you want to go out there on the IPI's website and research that more, you kind of let out that things are going to be coming, a digital version and management of that. So do you have an expectation when that may be out, or is that going to be something that I'm sure it's going to be promoted heavily if it's out at the convention in November, which
Yeah,
will be
I'm hoping that within the next calendar year that we can really start going live with it.
okay.
I don't think it'll be ready for my next inspection. I just had my last IPI NSF inspection. I'm hoping it's out within the next 12 months, and then a 12-month transition from paper to digital. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pushing forward, and Brian, our current chairman, is doing a great job. Really pushing it and getting it along. So hopefully we'll be there.
Yeah, Brian Washnock, the current chairman, he's leading us into the Tampa convention that, again, is going to be in November. So looking forward to that. And also, we need to keep an eye, I think, Jeff, on if FDA is starting surprise visits to, all the guests that we have on here, that if we're putting people on their radar. So, we got to be careful with that, right? So the BTI isn't going to
Do we
be
need to forewarn
exposing
people?
people, right? So,
And there is a lot more educated consumers out there today too. Yeah, so and those bigger buyers, they know the difference. The federal government knows the difference. They'll only buy from IPI approved sources. And the more these consumers become educated in themselves, the more it's customer driven as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Fred, thank you so much for joining us. We've been coming to you from the RouteMan studios here at the KCS headquarters in Pelham, Alabama. Fred, as always, good to catch up with you. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
So again, guys, talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Take care.